Okay, this is section 3.1, and today we're going to be talking about a bunch of different types of angles and different lines that we can have within pictures. So first off, we're going to talk about parallel lines, which we did last chapter, earlier in, or in chapter 3.4. And parallel lines just have the same slope, and they never touch, they never intersect. And the way that we mark them on a picture is we add kind of these triangles. You can see yours are kind of tiny. I'm just going to make them a little bigger. We just add these triangles. Sometimes they just look like an arrow. Sometimes they're a filled in triangle. But that is the signal. That's the symbol. That's how we mark the picture to tell everybody that those are parallel. Kind of like in previous chapters, to mark angles equal, we kind of do that little angle mark, or to mark sides equal, use that tick mark. This is just another way to tell everybody that those are parallel. Skew lines, that's a new word for you. These are lines that are not parallel and don't touch. So typically we've only talked about parallel and perpendicular. So either parallel, don't touch, or perpendicular, they do, and they make a 90. So skew now would be ones that don't intersect at all, but they're not parallel. And I'll give you an example of that. And then we've got parallel planes. So these are two planes that do not intersect. So an example of parallel lines in our picture would be line N and line M. So M would be parallel to N. That's our symbol for parallel, that double line. Skew lines, two lines that would be skew would be line K and line M. These two do not touch, but they also are not parallel. I could not use N and K because they touch, and I could not use N and M because they are parallel. So skew lines are lines that are not parallel and they don't touch. So that for us would be K and M. Let's sneak that in here. K and M. I should have wrote line in front. Of course, I'm using pen. And then parallel planes, we've got two of them. Here's plane T is parallel to plane U. Right there. And then I already kind of talked about this, but parallel can be marked by, they're just a small triangle or like an arrow on the line. That's how we mark them. So now let's just do a couple examples using all those different words. So name any line segment parallel to CD, but it has to go through A. So here's CD, here's A, and I just need to be parallel to CD, so I have to do the same slope. I got to do the same kind of angle here. So it could be EF, could be HG, but the one we want is AB because it goes through A. So AB. Number 2 says name any line segment skew to CD and going through A. Again, there are going to be quite a few that we could choose from, but we want ones that go through A. So here's CD. This could be a skew line, not parallel, but not touching. This could be a skew line, not parallel, not touching. This could be a skew line, not parallel, not touching. But the one we want is the one that goes through A. So we're going to pick AH, or I could even pick AG. Either one of those would work. So for skew, you just want to be not touching, but not parallel. Name any line segment perpendicular to CD, also going through point A. So here's CD, and I need to go through A. There are lots of options for us for perpendicular. Could have picked this guy, could have picked this one, but we want to go through A. So I'm just going to start at A and I'm going to come connect to CD, so that's AD for me. And I know it's a 90 because I got the box in the corner. So that tells me it's 90 and perpendicular. Last one, it says name any plane parallel to plane EFG. So EFG, remember planes are kind of like tilted rectangles, or they're like parallelograms. So it's this whole plane on the bottom. So it's the bottom of the cube, and I would like it to be parallel to that. So parallel to the floor or parallel to the bottom would be the top. So this plane. And you can use any 3 letters on that plane. It doesn't matter which 3 you use. You don't even have to use A if you didn't want. So I'm going to say plane ABC. A couple more words for you and examples of different types of angles that we're going to be working with and identifying for the next solid week of lessons. So a transversal is a line that intersects two or more other lines. So we've had pictures like this before where we've had lines intersecting other lines, and now we're just giving it a name. So your transversal is this one right here. I know it doesn't have any labels on it, but the transversal is the one that cuts through two or more other lines. Linear angles, we've talked about these ones before. They are adjacent, they touch, and they equal 180. And an example of that would be like 1 and 2. There are lots more examples in this picture. 7 and 8, 8 and 6, 6 and 5, 3 and 4, 4 and 2. There's a lot of them. I just picked out one. Supplementary angles, it means that they equal 180. In our picture with no measurements, it is essentially meaning that they are linear. So they have to be next to each other and they make 180. So instead of 1 and 2, which I totally could use, I'm just going to use 7 and 8 as an example. There are lots of them. 1 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 2. Any of them that are kind of back to back, adjacent, and you can connect them by that 180 rainbow, those are supplementary. Vertical angles are the ones that are kind of like across from. They make that V shape. So they're across from each other like that. And they're equal to each other. And we've got quite a few examples here. I'm just going to pick one. I'll do 6 and 7. So vertical angles are kind of diagonally across from each other. The only thing they share is the point where they touch at the middle. Otherwise, they don't share any other sides. These are 4 new words for you. The first one is called corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are on the same side of the transversal. So they're on one side or the other. And then you skip a line. So you would go 3 and 7 would be corresponding. And I'm going to do a few examples so you have a couple here in your notes. 2 and 6 would also be corresponding. 1 and 5. And the last ones would be 4 and 8. Alternate interior angles. So what that's saying is it's on the inside between your two lines. And alternate means we're on opposite sides of the transversal. So we want to kind of go diagonal from each other. So 2 and 7 would be an option. And angle 4 and 5. Alternate exterior. So now I'm going to cover up the middle portion, and we want to be all the way on the outside and opposite. It's almost like the farthest away you can get from each other. So 1 and 8, and then 3 and 6. The last ones are called, their whole name is consecutive interior. We usually end up just calling them co-interior angles. But consecutive just means in a row. Interior angles. So they again are on the inside. And instead of being alternate, instead of being on opposite sides, they are next to each other. Not linear though. I know 5 and 7 look like they're next to each other, but we want to be on the same side of the transversal. So 4 and 7 would be our consecutive interior, along with 2 and 5. So your whole job today is going to be working with this new word, skew, and then working with all these different angle types, but mainly focusing in on these 4. We're going to get really good at these, and then we're going to do problems solving them in the next lesson.